Hi everybody, Jonathan Van Kloot from ToolTrainer.com here, and today I wanted to do a quick overview of pivot tables and kind of what they're about. Pivot tables are something that is a feature of Excel that I use constantly. They are just absolutely invaluable when it comes to tracking stats and things of that nature that we do as online marketers, especially affiliate marketers, just all the time. And when I'm asked, what do you use to track? What do you use to do your stats? My answer to this day is still, well, mostly Excel and pivot tables, because nothing else gives me the kind of insight and visibility into the data with the kind of ease that a pivot table does. So to explain pivot tables and show you how to use them and how to work with them, I'm going to approach this actually a little bit backwards. First thing I'm going to do is show you sort of the end result of why I use pivot tables and what they allow me to see very quickly. So here we have an end result of two pivot tables. We have one that is the sum of all my commissions, and they're ordered by day, and one that is a sum of my spend, also ordered by day. I have the raw data here in these two spreadsheets. I have a revenue spreadsheet and a spend spreadsheet, and you can see the different kinds of information that are available in each one. And because obviously with the revenue side we get a lot less information. Typically all we get really that we can use anyway is a date and then the commission amount and then maybe a unique sub-ID that we're passing. The spend side, usually we have a lot more information. We know what campaign or maybe what ad group and things of that nature. But the end result is I have two pivot tables for that information. So just real quick, of course, I can see how much I made or how much I spent for each day. All right, that's fine. But I can also twirl open, for example, on the spend side, if I open up August 4th, I can see by campaign how much I spent for each one of these campaigns. And if I in turn open up, say, campaign 4, I can see each individual keyword and how much it spent. And of course, I can sort within here. It's already sorted top down. I can sort from bottom up if I wanted to. Top down gives me the highest spending keyword at the top. Okay, that's great. But what if I want to see my data organized in a different way? What if I just don't really care initially what the days are? I just want to know for this data set, for all the data I have available here, what did I spend per keyword total? I just want to know, like, what's my highest spending keywords? Well, all I have to do to see that is down here in the Windows version. The Mac version is unfortunately different, and the interface, frankly, in my opinion, sucks. But the Windows version, I think this interface is great. It's very intuitive and easy to use. All I'd have to do down here is drag keyword up to the top, and now everything is organized by keyword first. So now I can see I've spent about $7,000 on this keyword, $300 on this one. It drops off very, very, very quickly. So I automatically can just see right where all my money is going. And then if I want to open it up deeper than that, now I can see by day. And of course I can see within that by campaign. But what if I want to see it instead by campaign first and then date? Well, all I'd have to do is drag campaign up below keyword, and now I have it by keyword, by campaign, and then by date. So I can, just by shuffling these things around, I can completely change the view into my data. Let's put the date at the top again. So now I can see day by day by day what I spent on each thing. And it's the same thing for the revenue. If I open up revenue, of course, on the revenue side, all I have is whatever my unique coded sub-ID is, which within this context of this video, I'm not going to show how to reconcile those two. But the bottom line is, if I was passing the keyword or whatever I was passing, I would see it here. And I can see how much revenue I got for each one of those sales by date. But again, if I want to see it by sub-ID instead, all I have to do is drag the sub-ID field up above date. Now I've got it by sub-ID. And now I can see whatever I want to see into for each one of these sub-IDs. So that's what I would typically use pivot tables for. Okay, that is the end result of working with a pivot table. Now, how do you create these pivot tables? I'm going to show you that now. We have two raw spreadsheets. Okay, this is the first important step. You have to have your data in just these raw spreadsheets. Typically, you can download a CSV from your network. I went ahead and copied and pasted them to put them into a single workbook. So I've got two sheets, one for revenue, one for spend. And I've got all the salient data, all the important stuff that I care about that I want to know. A lot of times there'll be other information here. You might have referrers, or you might have some kind of a unique product code or vendor code or who knows what, all kinds of things. But really, we're not going to care about any of that stuff. We're just going to ignore it once we get our pivot table built anyway. But what I would do is first I need to create a new pivot table. So ignoring this sheet, in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this sheet completely. Okay, so we have two worksheets. I'm just going to select the entire sheet by selecting this little square in the upper left-hand corner, okay? Don't select this field here. Select this square here to select everything. I could also select just the columns, but I find it easier to just do that and select the whole thing. And then what I'm going to do is go to Insert, and I'm going to choose Pivot Table. And it's going to ask me, what range of data do I want? Well, you can see here by the little marching ants outline, it's already selected the data I want anyway because I selected the entire sheet ahead of time. So I don't need to touch that. And then I have my choice of, do I want this on a new worksheet or do I want to put it someplace on a worksheet that's already open within this workbook? For this first example, I'm going to just go ahead and make a new worksheet. That's fine. So I'm just going to hit OK. Here's my pivot table. Right now, there's no data in here, and it's telling you to build a report, choose fields from the pivot table field list. Well, the pivot table field list is this over here. And you have several choices of where these are going to go. And the easiest way to understand them is just to drop them in. So, for example, let's start with date. I'm going to drop date down. I'm going to start with column label, and you'll see what happens. Date, column labels would go horizontally across, left to right. If I were to put it here under row labels, it goes vertically, top to bottom, as rows. And you can change that up at any time and just move it around. Okay, so I'll just leave it down here. Now, commission, on the other hand, is actually the value that I care about. So I'm going to put it in the values column, and now you can see it's directly across from each date. However, notice these numbers are a little weird. It's because it defaults to a count of commission. So that actually ends up being a count of how many sales or how many leads or whatever did I generate for each one of these days. I don't want to know that. I want to know dollars and cents, folks. So what I do is simply right-click here, go to Summarize Data By, and change it to Sum. And now I have dollars. And of course, if you want to format it, you can go select the column, go to Format Cells, and do like currency. 2 decimal points is fine. And now I've got nice pretty dollars and so forth if I want to do that. I can also get rid of this blank row by just choosing here from row labels, unticking blank, and now it's gone. Okay, so here is my commission pivot table. Now I need to do the same thing with spend. I'm going to select the entire worksheet's worth of data, go to Insert, Pivot Table. Now this time, however, since I already have a pivot table worksheet over here, I'm going to go ahead and put them both on the same worksheet. I'm going to say Existing Worksheet, then click my cursor right in here for location. Now all I have to do is actually go pick the cell I want to put this pivot table on. I'm going to leave one column of blank space between the two pivot tables, so I'm going to put it here. And you can see it put the value in there, sheet 1, cell D3, D3. That's where we are here. And I'm going to hit OK. And now I have another pivot table, and I need to do the same process. So I'm going to basically do the same things. Even though I have a lot more data here, I got a lot more things I could play with because that spreadsheet had more columns of data that I created the pivot table on. But mostly I just want to see the same things. I want to start with date, and I want to see spend. So spend is my value. And again, it's a count of spend, which is not what I want. I want to right-click, go to Summarize Data By, and go Sum. Now I have dollars and cents. Of course, by default, it's rounding to a much finer unit. I don't care about that. I want to just go to, I'll just do accounting again. And now we have dollars and cents once again. So now I can see these two pivot tables. I can see how much was spent, and how much was earned for each day. And if I care to, I can create a formula here to give me a net number. Now, there's a trick here, however. If you were going to create a formula, typically you would do something like this. I would do equals this column minus this column. But you can see what it's doing to the formula. I don't really understand exactly why Excel does this, but when you make formulas based on pivot table cells, this is what you get. And that causes all kinds of problems, and so I just type these in by hand. Since this formula is going to be equal to E4 minus B4, all I got to do is type equals E4 minus B4. There we go. And now all I have to do is fill down by dragging the thick little black plus sign in the lower right-hand corner, and I can drag it all down. And oops, I went the wrong way. I subtracted commission from spend. What I really wanted to do was go equals B4 minus E4. That's a little bit better. Positive numbers, I prefer those quite a bit. And of course I can get rid of the blank here as well. So now, right off the bat, at a glance, I can see, okay, well, I had profitable day, unprofitable day, profitable day, and then a really profitable day. So things really took off on this day here on August 8th. So I might want to get a little more deep into, well, what exactly happened on that day, or what's going on? What keyword was responsible for that? Well, if I want to see more data here, all I got to do is select my spreadsheet, or my pivot table rather, and again, I can add more things here. I can add, let's say, keyword, and maybe even campaign. And now I can see it a variety of different ways. If I want to collapse everything all at once, all I have to do is choose the top level column I want to collapse, right click, go to expand, collapse entire field. And now everything's going to be all collapsed up. But I can twirl it open individual. I can do the same thing here, collapse entire field. There we go. And make sure we're sorted, data sort. There we go. So my top performing keyword was this one here, which obviously has been all scrambled. And I could see the campaigns as well. I could see that this campaign spent almost nothing, but this one obviously spent quite a bit. And if I want to shuffle this around, again, all I have to do is grab this value down here and move campaign above keyword. And now I can see individual campaigns and what keywords spent what. So I can simply shuffle these different field names around in order to change the way all my information is being grouped and displayed. You can also do really cool things like, for example, if I wanted to see, instead of a sum, if I wanted to see an average, I could change that and I would get an average value instead. Doesn't make sense in this context, but it's one of the things you can do, and sometimes an average is exactly what you want, depending on what you're trying to do. But pivot tables, as you can see, are just the only real way to get this kind of visibility into your data. And so this is why I continue to use them. I go through this process of pivot tables regularly in order to see what's going on inside of my campaigns. And there's just no better way to turn this kind of information into this kind of information. Same thing here. I can add sub ID down here under date, and now I've got the information organized by date and by sub ID. And if I want to change that around, I just drag sub ID up, and now I've got my commissions by sub ID instead of by date. I can sort top down, so now my biggest earning individual sub ID happened on these two dates, both on the August 7th and August 8th. These two sub IDs earned $45 each. So it just gives you a very quick, very powerful view into your data. Now you can also do things using, for example, a VLOOKUP, which is way too advanced to try to get into here, but it's something I do a lot. I'll do VLOOKUPs, which you can see here what they are and what they do. But VLOOKUPs are extremely powerful for matching spend on a particular keyword to revenue on a particular keyword. And it's something that I use quite often, and it's very, very powerful for being able to see your final net numbers. In my opinion, it's not enough to just know that you had conversions, and that's what I think a lot of people just kind of look at is they try to eyeball, well, I converted this many times, I made this much, I spent that much, so basically overall I'm in profit or not. And I like having a lot more detail on my data. I like being able to really drill in and say, well, what is it about this day? I mean, why did this day have almost $1,000 more profit than the day before? I want to be able to drill in and take a look and see what's going on. And sometimes I pass a lot more information than this as well. This is a very simple, stripped down example just to make it quick and easy. But you can pass as much information through a sub ID as you want, and then do pivot tables on it to see what's going on and get final numbers. So I can see here that for these 5 days, I'm up a little over $2,000. So I obviously am decently happy with that. So this campaign's doing well. Anyway, that is pivot tables. I hope you have a better understanding of what they're about now. They're nothing to be afraid of, even though I know they have this weird sounding name that sort of implies some kind of real complexity to it. I don't even know why. Well, I do know actually why they're called pivot tables, but I think it's a very confusing name. I'm not even going to bother explaining it because there's really no need to know. But just play with them. Throw some data, down here into a spreadsheet, select it, insert a pivot table, and play around with it. And you'll probably start to love them as I have. So there you have it. I hope that's helpful, and enjoy your new pivot tabling. Bye-bye.